It was a calm autumn night in one of the most expensive neighborhoods on Long Island. Inside a mansion on Middle Lane, millionaire Ted Ammon was at home. The security system was disarmed. The house was silent, and nothing seemed out of place. But by the next morning, everything had changed. What was discovered inside the master bedroom would send shockwaves through the Hamptons and unravel a sordid tale of jealousy, vast wealth, and profound betrayal. This was not a random tragedy. The truth was far closer to home than anyone could have imagined. Robert Theodore Ammon, known to all as Ted, was born on August 30th, 1949, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. His father, Robert Ammon, worked as a pension coordinator, while his mother, Betty Lee Morris, was a sharp-witted homemaker who instilled in her children a drive to dream big and achieve more. Ted grew up with his older sister, Sandy, who was both his companion and his first rival. He was a naturally gifted child. When Sandy practiced piano, Ted could often replicate the melodies after hearing them just once. His early years were stable, split between New Jersey shore towns and family visits to Iowa. As a teenager, his family moved to Aurora, New York, where Ted's charisma and intellect made him popular and respected. In 1967, he entered Bucknell University, initially studying architecture before finding his true calling in economics, graduating in 1971. He was a natural leader, serving as student body president and playing varsity lacrosse. Ted's ambition propelled him to Bank of America's executive training program. In a remarkable feat of self-discipline, he independently studied law and passed the New York bar exam without ever attending law school. It was during this time he met and married Randy Day in 1973. Their shared ambition took them to London, where they built successful careers. However, the relentless pace of their lives slowly eroded their marriage. In 1983, after a decade together, Randy initiated a civil but firm divorce. Heartbroken but undeterred, Ted channeled his energy into finance. In 1984, he joined the powerhouse private equity firm Kohlberg Kravis Roberts and Company, KKR. His razor-sharp intellect made him a star in the high-stakes world of leveraged buyouts, most notably during the legendary $31 billion takeover of RJR Nabisco, immortalized in the book Barbarians at the Gate. The wealth and prestige he earned were immense, but Ted was an entrepreneur at heart. He eventually left KKR to found his own ventures, including the successful printing company Big Flower Press and the boutique firm Chancery Lane Capital. It was at the peak of this professional ascent that his personal life took a fateful turn. In 1984, while apartment hunting, he missed an appointment. The rescheduled viewing introduced him to the real estate agent, Jean Rosa. She was intelligent, artistic, and captivating. Their connection was instant. Within a month, they were living together. When Ted, still wary from his divorce, hesitated to commit, Jean Rosa issued an ultimatum. They parted ways, but a chance encounter at an art museum, where Ted saw her with another man, spurred him into action. He proposed, and they married in 1986. Generosa's background was complex and troubled. Born in California, her artistic talents were overshadowed by a chaotic childhood. Her mother, Mary, was a mercurial figure believed to have had bipolar disorder. She led a turbulent life, showing little interest in her children. Jean Rosa never knew her biological father, an Italian sailor Mary had a brief affair with. When Mary died of cancer, 10-year-old Jean Rosa was shuttled between relatives, an experience that forged a fierce resilience, but also a deep-seated insecurity. As a young woman, Jean Rosa moved to New York, determined to make her mark. She worked as a real estate agent, thriving in the cutthroat Manhattan market. Even after marrying Ted, she maintained her ambitions, and he supported her artistic pursuits, even opening a photography studio for her. On the surface, they were a golden couple. They adopted twins, Greg and Alexa, from Ukraine in 1992 and built a sprawling custom-designed estate in East Hampton. But behind closed doors, the marriage was crumbling. Generosa's temperament was volatile. She was prone to explosive jealousy, monitoring Ted's communications and accusing him of infidelity. She would taunt him by comparing him to wealthier men. Ted, initially patient, grew weary. By the late 1990s, he was confiding in friends about divorce. In a last-ditch effort to save their relationship, they moved to Surrey, England, in 1999, purchasing a manor named Coverwood. The move only magnified their problems. Ted commuted to New York for work, while Jean Rosa, isolated in England, grew increasingly paranoid. She hired private investigators to follow him, convinced he was having an affair with a female banker. In 2000, she filed for divorce, demanding half of what she believed was a $300 million fortune. The proceedings turned vicious, with Jean Rosa allegedly manipulating the children against their father. During the bitter divorce, while renovating a Manhattan townhouse Ted had provided for her, Jean Rosa met Daniel Pelosi, a 38-year-old contractor with a history of assault convictions, theft, and substance abuse. Pelosi was 7 years her junior. Ted despised him, fearing for his children's safety, but Jean Rosa flaunted the relationship. Pelosi, seeing an opportunity, attached himself to her wealth, driving a Porsche and living in the home Ted had bought. The legal battle grew uglier. Ted withheld support payments and revealed his true net worth was closer to $30 million. A settlement was nearly finalized, granting Jean Rosa millions, when tragedy struck. On October 20, 2001, Ted Ammon was found murdered in his East Hampton mansion. His chauffeur discovered him naked on his bed, his skull shattered by multiple blows. The alarm had been disabled. There was no sign of forced entry. The investigation pointed to someone who knew the home and its owner. Suspicion fell immediately on Jean Rosa, who stood to inherit his entire $97 million estate. Just 3 months after the murder, she married Daniel Pelosi. Witnesses came forward, claiming Jean Rosa had once offered $50,000 to have Ted beaten. The case against Pelosi grew stronger. An acquaintance, Christopher Pino, testified that he drove Pelosi to Ted's house that night, and Pelosi returned to the car covered in blood, muttering, "I think he's dead." Others recalled Pelosi boasting about the murder. Yet there was a twist. Jean Rosa herself was dying of advanced breast cancer. Before her death, she turned on Pelosi, disgusted by his reckless spending. She forced him to sign a postnuptial agreement, leaving him with only $2 million. She died on May 20, 2003, never having been formally charged. With Jean Rosa gone, the case focused on Daniel Pelosi. At his 2004 trial, he admitted being at the scene but claimed Jean Rosa was the mastermind. The jury didn't believe him. On January 25, 2005, he was convicted of murder and sentenced to 25 years to life. Custody of Greg and Alexa was granted to Ted's sister, Sandra Williams, who provided the stable home their father would have wanted. Years later, the twins co-produced a documentary, 59 Middle Lane, confronting their painful past. They remember their father as a kind and generous anchor, and their mother as a complex, charismatic figure whose choices led to chaos and destruction. Despite the tragedy, they have carried forward, finding their own stability in the long shadow of their parents' turbulent lives. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.